Leg extensions are, on the one hand, super simple to do, and on the other hand, seemingly complicated. There are many different things that can take a leg extension from being crap to being amazing, and today we're going to go over exactly what those things are in a step-by-step tutorial-like fashion with my several bones here. All right, step number one. If we have a knee and we want to load the knee into extension to train our quads, we probably should be sitting. So the question is, where do we sit? Well, as a starting point, here's a good recommendation. Instead of listening to what most people say about, oh, you need to line your knee up with the axis of rotation of the machine, which can be helpful sometimes, what I would recommend is just take the bottom of your femur, this is your leg bone, right? So your quads are sitting here and they're running down onto the knee and they straighten the leg like this, just so you can orient yourself. Put like pretty much close to the bottom of your femur, in other words, the bottom of your hamstring area, put that down on the edge of the pad, just as a starting position, right? Because from there, then you can orient, okay, where does the back pad need to be? A lot of people will play around with the back pad, sit down, get up, sit down, get up. Just sit down first. Don't worry about where the seat is. Maybe just move it all the way backward to start. Sit down, leg at the end of the pad like this so that your knee is just hanging off, and then adjust the seat from behind you and pull it up so that it's touching your back. That's kind of step number one. Now, step number two, and this is probably the most overlooked part of the process, is going to be really two things. Number one is making sure that before you even start to worry about the shin pad and where the shin pad is and what it's doing, is make sure that you pick your femur up, your leg up, and put it down, right? The reason is because a lot of people, they sit down and their skin will actually get pulled in one direction or another. Most often the skin gets actually pulled backward, so what ends up happening is as you straighten your leg out, it ends up almost feeling like there's more resistance at the top, simply because your skin is literally stretching and it's actually acting almost like it's a hamstring. So when you sit down and you place your leg that way, pick it up, put it down so the skin isn't getting pulled, and if you're wearing pants, you probably don't need to worry about that. Now, in tandem with that, you want to make sure that when you sit down, imagine I'm doing a leg extension toward you, that your kneecap is pointed directly away from you. So if someone is filming you doing a leg extension, like I am filming myself in this camera right now, point the kneecap away from you directly that way, and make sure that your legs aren't angled outward like this. Why? Well, because if your legs are angled outward, what direction is your knee going to be facing? It's going to be facing over this way. So you want to make sure that your kneecap is pointed directly forward toward where the pad is actually moving, so that you can load your knee in the direction that it is moving. Your knee does not move side to side, and if it does, not so good things probably will happen. Okay, cool. So you've sat down, edge of the pad, pulled the seat back up toward you, kneecaps are facing perfectly forward. Now it's time to worry about, okay, what the heck is going on with the shin pad? There are many different types of shin pads. There's the one that are sort of circular and they roll up and down. There's the ones that kind of are more rectangular and they stick here. There's kind of different variations between. The overall big picture takeaway of where do I place the pad, as step number three here, is just place the pad in a position where it feels like it's tracking perfectly with your shin. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, if you imagine that a pad at every point is just going to be pushing into your shin like this, it's going to be pushing close to 90 degrees, or ideally it's pushing close to 90 degrees, because if it's angled downward that way, it's going to feel kind of weird, and if it's angled upward that way, it's going to kind of feel weird. So imagine that your shin pad is pushing 90 degrees through the whole range, not just in the bottom. So in the bottom, if it's pushing you like this, and then in the top, it starts to maybe roll down, or it starts to roll up, it's going to feel weird. It's going to feel clunky. It's not going to feel very natural. So from the bottom, you want to make sure that the pad is pushing you 90, and then as you kick your shin upward, you want to make sure that that 90-degree thing is tracking. So as you go down, that pad is following you perfectly. As you go up, that pad is following you perfectly. And what this looks like in real time is the pad, if it's able to roll, does it feel like it's rolling down as you're kicking up, or is it rolling significantly up as you're kicking up? So is it rolling in either direction? Or if you have one of those rectangular ones, does it feel like it's tugging on your skin from the bottom to the top of the motion? If you feel a skin tugging, or if you're observing this weird roll toward your foot as you kick up, you need to play around with the pad adjustment. Now, instead of creating a hard rule around, oh, if it rolls down, do this, if it rolls up, do this, just first play around with the minimal change that you need. Don't move the seat all around. Don't try to shift your leg forward or backward, right? That's going to change a lot of things. You've already set those first two parts of the motion up very well. Now basically just see if you can slightly adjust the pad up or slightly adjust the pad down, right? Most of those leg extension machines have subtle adjustments up and down, and if it isn't totally perfect but it feels good enough, then you don't have to worry about that pad situation too much. Just make sure that it's close enough to where it's tracking with your shin in that sort of 90-degree direction. If it's rolling down or up, or if it feels like it's sliding, play around with moving the pad upward or downward until it feels like it's in that sweet spot. Okay, cool, so you've sat down, your shins are pointed correctly in that forward direction, and you've set the pad so that it's moving and tracking along with your shin nicely. Now what do we do? Well, now we have to start to be concerned about execution and what we're actually thinking about during the motion. Well, think about the motion of a leg extension. Now, what are you doing? You're basically just kicking your foot in like a semicircle, right? So if you were to just rotate this all around, you all see how the foot is just making a circle right now. All you're doing is you're basically doing just a quarter of a circle. And so because you're moving in a quarter of a circle, you're moving in what's called an arc. And an arc requires that whatever object is rotating is changing its direction of motion throughout the degrees of rotation. And so what that means in the context of a leg extension is in the bottom of the motion, watch what direction the foot is moving. So here's the knee up here, here's my femur, okay? The foot is going to move forward at the bottom, so you all see how the foot is kind of swinging in this horizontal direction, but then at a certain point, it's gonna kind of round the corner, and it's gonna kind of turn around the corner and start to go upward. So in the bottom of the motion, you need to imagine, okay, I'm just kicking the pad, boom, straight out in front of me. But then as soon as you start to see your toes go up to the ceiling, now you gotta be thinking up toward the ceiling. And so many people, when I talk to them and coach them through this, they have a very easy, intuitive time pushing the pad forward, but a lot of people struggle to think about the upward portion. And so what I want you all to think about, just as a primary thing first and foremost, is just imagine that as you're kicking upward toward the ceiling. Don't try to think too much about the forward. The forward part of the motion pretty much takes care of itself, but a lot of people have trouble with that end, that top portion of the range where they're really getting that quad squeeze, probably at least partly because it's super uncomfortable there. But the point still remains. Imagine that your foot is moving up toward the ceiling and not that you're just sort of haphazardly kicking something forward away from you. And again, this is all just to account for the motion of the actual shin and what the shin and what the foot are actually doing. And then also to make sure that you're actually shoving directly against the pad throughout the entire time. And guess what? The same thing holds true on the way down, right? This is only half the motion on the way up. So on the way down, you are still consciously thinking foot to ceiling, foot to ceiling, foot to ceiling as your foot lowers down. So it's not just a thing on the way up. It's also, okay, I need to resist the pad from just flopping my leg downward toward the floor. I'm going to continue to think about kicking the foot upward toward the ceiling as I allow the pad to lower. Okay, so next up is stability. What the heck is going on with stability? Well, the main thing that you need to be concerned about is just flopping and flailing up and down out of the seat, right? If you try to do heavy leg extensions, and I encourage you all to experiment with this, it's actually kind of funny what happens. Try to kick a really heavy leg extension pad, like put the stack on there, and just watch what happens to your body. You're just gonna fly up out of the seat. Now that's why the handles are by your sides. And so the first thing to consider here is just the fact that you need to be pulling up on the handles the whole time, right? You can think about this like you're doing some kind of row, like where you're, pulling from low to high, like an upright row. You can also think about it like just grabbing the handles and doing a shrug, whatever feels the most stable to you. You just want to make sure that you're holding yourself down into the seat throughout the whole motion, but especially toward the top end of the range. Why? Well, because when you kick your leg up toward the top, this is where that applied load is going to be farthest from you over here. So it's almost going to be like a seesaw that's trying to tip you out of that seat. So you don't probably need to focus on pulling up on the handles too much in the bottom portion of the range because the force is kind of going this way. It's not super direct. But once you get to the top, okay, much like we're thinking, okay, kicking the foot to the ceiling, you want to make sure that you are equally and oppositely pulling yourself down into the seat so that you can actually load your knee and so that your whole body isn't getting tipped upward again like a seesaw. Now, something that I really love to use during leg extensions is a seatbelt. I will just wrap a seatbelt around underneath of the seat, strap myself in. The one that I use is from Shin Pad. And basically you just strap yourself in. You don't even need to really be concerned about holding yourself in with the handles because the seatbelt itself will hold you down. And it's just a great way to kind of take some effort out of the motion. And in my personal experience, it leads for a much more sound setup and execution for just isolating the quads. Again, you just don't have to really worry about holding yourself down. You don't have to devote effort to holding yourself into the seat the whole time. Now, if you don't have a seatbelt or you don't feel like being the person that buys a seatbelt to strap yourself into a leg extension and you are using, say, the full stack on your leg extension, Alternatively, you could just use a single leg and do a single leg extension, right? Because then you're using a fraction of the load, and it's gonna be super easy to hold yourself down into the seat. And even if it might take a little bit more time, one leg's rest will function as the other leg's working set, and vice versa. So doing single leg extensions really doesn't take any extra time unless you're supersetting leg extensions with something else. Now, the icing on the cake in this big question of what do I do with the feet? Do I do toes up, toes down? Short answer here, it doesn't really matter. Find the position that's comfortable for you. Slightly longer answer is that if you consider the fact that the gastrocnemius, the outer calf, crosses the back side of the knee, so where my thumb is running right here, it crosses the back of the knee. So when you straighten your knee, you're actually lengthening the calf. And when you pull your toes to your face, you're also lengthening the calf. So if you are consciously trying to crank your foot this way as you're doing the leg extension, it might actually feel like there's a lot of tightness kind of on the back side of your leg because that gastroc, that outer calf, is fully stretched. So if you're someone who's feeling sensation behind the knee, I would just chill the hell out on your feet. And if you're used to just digging your feet, your toes upward toward your knee, as I have been in the past, I've actually programmed myself to do that. I have to consciously actually allow my foot to relax and almost point my toes forward a little bit. So if you're not feeling anything weird around the knees or around the quads or anywhere, don't worry about the foot. Just forget about the fact that you have feet. Just pretend your feet don't even exist. But if you're someone who's feeling a lot of that sensation on the back of the knee, relax the foot. And if you are feeling like a relaxed foot is for whatever reason wobbly, unstable, maybe a little bit of a tug upward on the ankle on the foot this way would be worth experimenting with. I don't really know how you and your body will respond to that. Just remember, again, that short answer of there are no hard rules around that. Go with whatever feels like it's most isolating, smoothest for your quads. Please let me know in the comments, what exercise do you want me to cover in depth next? And guess what? If you want to learn more from me, check the links in the description. I have free content as well as paid content that will help you understand and master the biomechanics of lifting like you never have before. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next video.